Hello everyone. In this tutorial we're going to show you how to install Windows XP from scratch, and also how to prepare your laptop for it. So the first thing that we must do is we need to make sure that we can boot from a CD. In this scenario I've got a HP, but I'm going to be using a Dell original operating system disk that will gladly boot up and install Windows. And underneath the system, where you've got your product tag, you'll find that there is a serial number for that version of Windows. So you're going to use that number so that we don't end up getting into trouble with Microsoft when the genuine checks come and check your system. So the first thing is, though, when you put the CD in, your computer might not boot directly from it. So the first thing we're going to have to do is just make sure that the BIOS is set in the right order. In this particular system, we're going to press F10, although it could be sometimes delete, F2, or even F12. And right at the beginning, then, when the computer switched on, it gave us a small clue to what key to press to get into the BIOS. Now they all sort of do the same thing, but they are laid out slightly different. In this case, I know that my boot options for my hard drive is under this menu, System Configuration, Boot Options, and when I go inside there I get to see a list that shows what devices boot up first, second and third. So in this case we want to make sure that our notebook multi-bay, which is the CD-ROM drive, DVD drive, is the first device to boot up. So if there's a CD that's bootable, it will try to do that. The next one that we've got here is would be your normal hard drive. In this case I haven't got that, but that's not important because it will go on to checking if it will boot from a USB external hard disk. So it's going to find the first one as bootable. It's going to boot up from the CD. If I wanted to change these settings, I just have to go left and right on my keyboard, and you can see that I can change the order of the devices. So we're certain that the CD is the first one to boot up, and once we're happy with that, our instructions say press F10 to save these settings. And now that that's done, we press escape and we go to the first menu and save the changes and exit. That's important, otherwise we wouldn't have done any changes at all. Before I do that, because it's going to reset, I'm going to open up the CD-ROM drive and I'm going to insert the disk, and now choose Save Changes and Exit. Are you sure? Very. And there you go. So what we're hoping for now is that the computer is going to boot up from the CD. But take a quick look at number F9 there, boot menu option. Some systems have this. I needn't have gone into the BIOS to check any of the order of the devices, because I've got an option now to actually pick what unit to boot up from, in this case the multi-bay drive. So I'm going to choose that, but it would have booted up anyway if I'd done nothing. I've got a little error there that tells me to set the date and time. I've also got a damaged screen with a couple of lines going down the screen, but that won't affect the installation. So it's asking us to press a key to boot up from the CD, and there it is, the first line that's showing that the installation is starting. Now I'm going to assume that you want to erase everything, that you might have an existing Windows or Partition already on the hard drive, and I'm going to show you the steps of how to get rid of that and start a totally fresh installation. I'm also going to be chopping off some bits on the video whilst we wait minutes at times for the system to do its copying and installation of things. My advice also is that, other than actually installing a fresh copy of Windows, it brings along a few problems. 99% of the time the copy of Windows does not have specific drivers for your wireless, for your graphics card, for your sound card and other chips and bits inside your computer. So there is a big session that you need to do where you go to your manufacturer's website, you go into the support section and you type in the model number of your machine, which is found underneath on the product label, and from there you will find a list of all these files that we're asking for, all these drivers. They're basically files you need to download and unpack, install and run, and you will get your graphics card driver set up properly, you'll get your sound working, your wireless and all the sort of other extras that the laptop could do. You'll find all the drivers on the manufacturer's website. So you really need one working system to be able to do that download, because you might not be able to get onto the internet once Windows has been installed from fresh. And that's the biggest issue with installing Windows, is really patching up all the drivers that Windows didn't have. So we're just waiting for the procedure to give us our first screen of options. Okay, so we're given the first set of options: to repair an existing copy of Windows in the middle, to quit and do nothing, or to set up a copy of Windows, which is telling us just to press enter. Now, I didn't expect this to happen. It's giving me an error saying that it can't find a hard drive, and I know why this is. It has to do with the BIOS and the emulation for the hard disk. So we're going to press F3 to exit the setup. We're going to press F10 to enter the BIOS as the machine is resetting. And I'm quickly just going to see where maybe the option exists. I'll check this device configuration. So we've got the SATA native mode here. It could be that, as SATA is a type of hard disk. I'm going to maybe disable this. I'm hoping to get IDE emulation. So I'm going to accept that. Let's also check the next menu. Our wireless is on, our Bluetooth is on, ambient light sensor is on. Okay. I see what port options it's got. Disabling USB ports and infrared ports and so on. Power on, password. Okay, I'm going to go with that change, and hopefully it's going to be happy as we've switched off SATA, that it puts its place in booting up with an IDE compatible interface. And this is exactly the problem with drivers. If Windows doesn't recognize a device, then it fails obviously to find it, and you need to put into place a driver to install the device. Now, right now at this moment where it says press F6, I might need to do this quite simply. If I need to add a driver onto Windows as it installs, by choosing that option I would have downloaded the files that I need, and I would have them on maybe a USB stick or something, have it plugged in, and I would boot up with that option, and I will ask it to install the extra drivers which are on that stick by pointing to a path and letting it find the drivers and add them on. Once the drivers are added, the system will be able to find the device, in this case the hard drive. So we wait again whilst Windows boots up the first part of its installation. So here we have the first screen that's asking us a question, whether we want to repair Windows or install it from scratch by pressing enter. That's what we're going to do. As you can see, it's just detecting the hard disk, and what I've got here is an agreement. So we press F8 to agree with that agreement. I hope you've read it. Now it's detected that I have a previous copy of Windows installed, and I don't really want to in any way install Windows again on this, because it won't really clean up this copy of Windows. So I want to totally erase that. To do this, we're not going to press R for repair the existing copy, but we're going to press escape to install a fresh copy. Escape is on the top left corner of your keyboard. Now that I've done that, you see that it's showing me a list of hard drives. Now we've got to be careful here. As on a laptop, we've only got normally one hard drive. We know that this is the right hard drive. But if you've got a desktop and you're doing this on a desktop, where you might have additional hard drives, you need to make sure that you are erasing the correct hard disk. Otherwise, you will lose your data. Whatever is on that disk, it will be gone. So what we're going to do now is actually delete this partition, totally get rid of it. We're not going to do the first three options here, but we're actually going to do a D for delete. So we've got it highlighted, and again, whilst we're installing Windows right at the beginning, we have no mouse. Everything is being done with the up, down arrow keys, the enter key, and generally escape to go back out of a menu. So we're going to press D for delete, and to confirm that we want to delete, we need to press enter, and then we need to confirm this action by pressing L. That's the first option here. And there you go. We now have a unpartitioned hard drive. If we try to switch the computer, it will fail to boot from Windows any longer. And the next thing that we're going to do is press enter to install on this partition. Now I'm going to do a quick format instead of a full format. The difference being is that when it does a full format, it erases the whole disk in such a way that it at the same time checks the surface of the disk. 99% of the time that's not really necessary if you know that the hard drive is working okay and everything. So in this case, the quick version doesn't do the erasing of the whole disk to check every single inch of it. It only quickly blanks out the hard drive and prepares it with its file allocation tables, its FATs. And there we see it formatting. And the format is complete. And it now starts copying files from the CD-ROM drive to the hard drive. This normally takes a bit of time. As you can see, it's only on 1%, 2%. So we've now seen it go from the first progress bar now into this next stage, where it quite simply prints a few advantages of using Windows XP, and you can see an estimation time there of 39 minutes. And here we have the next screen of the installation. Quite simply, by default, Windows XP defaults to an American keyboard, and what will happen if you're in the UK is that the pound sign will print dollar and your email @ sign will be in the wrong place. This is generally because the machine's been set up as a United States machine whilst it's in the UK. I'm actually going to configure this machine for the UK, so I'll show you the steps required. You click on the first customize, and from this drop down list we scroll one up and you'll find United Kingdom right at the top. On the location we'll also do United Kingdom. We choose OK with that, and then the details for the keyboard. As you can see, we now have a UK keyboard, English keyboard added to the list, but it's still defaulting to the American one, so we need to switch it over to the United Kingdom by clicking here and changing the option. and that has set your keyboard and your system to a UK version. Choose your country from those lists and do the same 2 steps to configure the country that you're in. Now here we just type in what would be your name, I guess, as owner of the laptop. In this case I'm just going for a default name, user, and we press on next. This question here is about on the network. If you are on the network, computers can be accessed from one computer to the other through the fact that they're connected onto the same network, and this is the name of the machine as it shows up on the network. I prefer something a little bit more user-friendly. In this case I'm just going to type in my PC. It's important to know that there shouldn't be 2 computer names of the same type on the same network. Not advisable, but for the sake of this tutorial I'm going to skip inputting in a password. If I do put in a password when Windows switches on, it will just ask me to type that password in, but for this tutorial I'm just going to skip that, and I click onto the next screen. It's asking me to set the date and time. So as you can see here, the whole year and everything is incorrect. I'm going to put it to 2011. I clicked on the number, and I'm using the up arrow key now to increase the number quickly. And today we're on the 26th of August. So we just click onto the next month and we find our 26. And I'm also going to take the time to set the time correctly. So it's 4:24. Now I highlighted the number there and just typed it in instead of scrolling through all the individual numbers. The other thing that we're going to do is tell the system what time zone we're in, and you just need to pick your country from this list. In this case I'm GMT, Greenwich Mean Time, and we click on next. It now continues with installing more files. Now normally Windows will also come up with a screen asking you for your license product key, which is written on the label underneath your laptop, and you need to match up the version of Windows that you're installing. If it's XP Home, Windows Vista or Windows 7, you need to match up and install the same version of Windows as serial number license key that you've got. Now with this particular CD that I've got from Dell, the way it works is that it actually thinks it's going to install itself on a Dell PC, and if I were to use it on a Dell PC laptop, it doesn't actually ask me to type in the serial number. It intelligently recognizes that this is a original Dell CD and that it's a Dell system, and it's going to generate a number, and without typing anything in, it automatically continues very happy with the serial number that itself generates. Right now it's doing that. It's not asking me the question of typing in the serial number, and for that reason later on, when Windows goes and authenticates itself on the first few updates, it's going to find that your key is not correct for your system, as it's from a Dell computer, and it's going to ask you, you're going to get a screen that will allow you to change the number that it's picked, serial number that it's picked, with the one that you've got written at the back of your underneath your laptop, and can also be found on the side of a desktop PC. Now as you can see, the system has automatically reset itself on that last screen, and because we've got the CD in the drive, it's going to ask us if we want to boot from that CD, and there's the message. We are not going to touch a single key. Actually, we now need to take that disk out of the drive. So let's do that. And what's actually happening is that the next stage of Windows is already loading from the hard drive. I've just taken out the disk. Now, because it hasn't got all the drivers installed properly, your screen is going to look like it has less colors than normal. It's also going to, we have a message here to say, to improve the appearance of visual elements, Windows will automatically adjust your screen resolution. We're going to click OK with that. And it looks, the fact that we can see this next message means that everything is okay. So we click OK with that. So now it's just made it a little bit higher resolution than before. So as you can see, we're now on the next part of the installation. It's thanking us for purchasing the product, and we just click on next. Now notice that we didn't hear anything when the computer switched on. Normally you hear a little da-da-da-da when Windows is switching on, and the fact that I didn't hear anything is telling me already that the sound drivers aren't working. I'm going to turn on automatic updates. Now, when you install a fresh copy of XP, and we're going to click on next, the copy on the CD is probably years old. So by the time the computer gets connected to the internet, it's going to find a ton of updates, a serious amount of updates that come along, service packs, security updates. We're talking about a couple of 100 megabytes of updates really, and those updates, you need to be very patient with them. A, do install them, and B, do let the system perform its task, and do not prematurely turn off the computer while it's doing any of those installations. If you do, it is most likely that you will corrupt your Windows configuration, and if you're really lucky, you'll get away with it. But it's not the thing to do. Let those updates install. Also, whilst we've been installing Windows, we've had the laptop connected to power. That's very important because we don't want as well the laptop to run out of battery and prematurely finish and shut down before the actual installation is sort of completed. In this case, we're just going to do a little username here, and we're going to click on next, and that has completed the first stage of installing Windows. Soon we're going to get a desktop. It takes again a bit of time to prepare your desktop for the first time, and there we have it. Now, another thing that didn't happen, when the system was installing, it didn't find any network cards, and I know this because if it would have found either my wireless or the Ethernet network card, it would have come up with an extra screen saying, for your network settings, what do you want your work group name to be, and do you want to use typical or custom settings? If you see, or if you saw that screen on your system, the answer is just to stick to typical settings and leave it with the default work group name that XP gives it. Nothing special to do there. Unless you want to customize your network, then that's when you play with that configuration. Now, just to show you about drivers and what is and what isn't installed properly, on the start menu, go over to my computer, right click and choose manage. We then click on the left hand side here, device manager, And this is it. On this list, these little exclamation marks and question marks are representing warning, saying that I neither do not know what the device is, or I get a little clue, like this laptop has got a fingerprint scanner, so I can see that the drivers for the fingerprint scanner are required, drivers for the network card are required, drivers for the video are required. This simple communications controller tends to be a traditional fax 56k modem, and these PCI devices and these unknown devices are probably what we call system motherboard drivers. Again, I will show you this on another laptop where I'll go online, I'll search for the model of this machine and show you the kind of steps you will need to do to download the files that you would need. But right now this machine cannot be connected to the internet, and we're relying on USB sticks or burning the files that you download on the other computer to a CD and using that as transport for copying the files that you want and running the files that you want on this machine whilst they were downloaded on another. So let me just switch over to another laptop that's on the net. So here we are in front of Google. My system is a HP NC6400. Now HP has got very good indexing on Google, and 99% of the time you will find the link for the drivers on the first page. Do avoid other web pages that are not branded hp.com. Like if you were looking for Dell drivers, do make sure that you're going to a dell.com website for the drivers. A lot of other websites try to give you things to fix your drivers, download drivers, all revolving around some silly software that you install your machine, and it really doesn't do the job right. So on that basis, we're just making sure that with hp.com, and actually as a keyword I could also add the word drivers, and as you can see from the search I've already got a sublink here that goes straight into drivers inside Hewlett Packard's website. So I'm just going to click on that, and bingo, we've done it. If I don't find a page that takes me directly to the right page, and here we can see all the drivers for the chipset, which is the unknown ones, the audio and the network and the 56k modem that we're talking about, and even some more that we never knew. We've got special buttons on the HP, and those buttons use a little program to set them up and configure them. And what we really want to do is we want to download really all of these files. Where it gets a little bit confusing is that sometimes the same model system is produced with different wireless cards or different graphics cards. So sometimes you might have a case where what you're going to download is might be the wrong one. You might have two options, and really there are tools that help you with finding out or getting a clue to which wireless system that you've got. But for now we're just going to assume that we don't have those tools, and you just need to download both sets of graphics drivers, for example, and then when you run the wrong one it will say, I'm not for your system, I haven't found what I'm looking for, I'm quitting. And the right ones that you run will continue to install successfully. So in this case I'm going to plug in my USB stick onto my computer, and I'm going to choose to download let's do the best one to download really would be the wireless card, because if I can get the other machine on the internet with the wireless, then from there I can do all these other downloads directly on the computer without having to copy them across. So I'm going to go down that route, and I'm looking for the wireless driver. Here we go. Here we have the driver's network. We have the Intel Pro Wireless. You see, we also have a Broadcom wireless LAN driver. So the LAN driver would be your network cable, and obviously the wireless drivers would be for your wireless. In this case, I can only see I can see that there's another wireless module here, and there's one other module there. I'm going to go with the latest one just in case. If I'm wrong, then basically I just need to download the other one and install that. Sometimes you can install a driver and it happily installs, and you don't you don't get an error, but it installs, and at the same time your wireless is not working. So in that case, it's still proof that it's the wrong driver. We must go into the control panel, add remove programs, and take out the installation that we just put in before we continue to put in the next one. It's a good thing to clean up before you continue. The file that we're going to download, we're going to choose where to put it. In this case, I know it's my G disk, and we're going to save it in that folder. We can click on, if you can see the contents of the folder, and we're just going to click on save. There it is, downloading and downloaded directly onto the USB stick, so that we don't have to copy it maybe from my documents. And we're now just going to switch over. So now that we've got the file on a USB stick, we're going to plug that in. We're going to give the computer a second to recognize that disk, and we then go to the start button, choose my computer, find your memory stick, and right click and choose explore. In there we're going to find the file that we downloaded. There it is. We're going to double click on this file, and what it's doing, it's going to uncompress itself. Inside that file is lots of little files. We just clicked on next, we click on agree the agreement, and those files are going to be placed inside a folder. And HP's drivers like to choose a folder called SW setup, probably meaning software setup, and then another folder of the same name as the file, and this is located on the C disk. So we agree with that, we're happy with that folder, and we let it unpack. The next thing is we close the window that we just had open there, and you can automatically see that the drivers have decided to automatically run and install themselves. Sometimes it doesn't automatically run. Okay, so what you would need to do is go into the C drive, go into the software setup folder, go into the folder that's got, let's say, the graphics driver, and in here we can see that this is the main installation program, dpinst32. Sometimes it's called setup.exe or just setup. That would be the right file to double click on, and then you would get something like this, where you automatically have to answer a few questions and agree with it. There it is, copying the files again. Technically it's happy that it's installed drivers for the following things on this computer that they're ready to use, and we click on finish. Now sometimes, and mainly with the sound, graphics and wireless drivers, when you install them you have to reset the system to get them working properly. Okay, so if I'm going to go here now to this wireless symbol that I've got, and I double click on it, right, I could have been in a scenario where this list was blank. It's worth resetting your laptop once you've installed the graphics, sound or wireless drivers, because sometimes the drivers don't work properly until the machine's been reset. In this case I'm going to get now online onto my network. We're hoping it's going to ask me for my encryption key, and there it is. And we choose connect, and the little ball means that it's getting the IP address, and if that's successful, then it will just become connected. There you go, and it's just become connected now on the bottom right hand side, and it says as connected on the main list here. We close that. We now have the wireless drivers up and running. Updates are going to begin to download, and from here we can also now launch Internet Explorer and get into downloading the rest of the drivers. And here we are with Internet Explorer going by default to MSN's website. I like Google compared to other search engines. I think it's just cleaner and provides more accurate content, more better results really. And we're going to do the HP NC6400 just to show you that we could continue right as Internet Explorer is running for the first time, and this is the first time that we're sending a few words over the internet to Google for it to search for what we're looking for. It considers this as maybe a security risk, and it's telling you that it's sending you information over the net, and it can be intercepted by other people. Don't forget that the internet is made out of hundreds of networks all plugged together, and your information, my information, is going from my computer here all the way reaching Google, ends up going through many other different people's networks. And if somebody is not behaving correctly in the middle, they can actually monitor your traffic and retrieve information that you're sending. That's why it's important that when you're doing sensitive information like credit cards, it's important that it reads HTTPS. This is totally off subject really, but the S means that it's encrypted, so therefore the few words that I'm typing in here are actually scrambled, then sent down through the internet and de-scrambled at the other end. Anybody in the middle does not get to see the contents if they're secure, if it's a HTTPS connection. We're going to click on this top link again, as it seems to be the right one for this laptop. And we're just waiting for a reply. I'm also now going to unplug the USB stick. Again, we don't hear the usual didn't because the drivers for the sound are not running yet. In this case, I've come in through a slightly different screen where I can see I've got the right model, NC6400, but I need to choose the operating system that I'm installing. In this case, it's Microsoft XP Professional, and then what it does, it filters all the drivers for your type of operating system into one list. Again, Dell have got also a very good website. Most manufacturers have got a very good website for downloading their drivers. I'm going to generally continue to simultaneously now download, well actually I'll only do one at a time. And about installing drivers and installing them all in one go, I have had the odd occasion where if you install the wireless, the graphics, the sound, and those drivers are then saying to you, oh, I'd like to reset the computer, and you say, no, not now, I'm going to install another driver. I've had the odd scenario where the system crashes because of all the simultaneous installations that take place. So if a driver says to you, I'd like to reset the computer now, do it before you move on to the next one. It's a bit tedious because yes, you have to wait again and again and again for the computer to switch on and so on, but you will be avoiding any sort of issues. So we've got two options of the same driver from ATI for the graphics. One of them is dated 2007 and the other for 2009, and it's quite a large download, 100 megabytes, and I'd be happy to put it just on the desktop for now. And there it is, starting to download the file. Whilst it's doing that, we're going to visit the screen that's going to ask us to change our serial. Okay, so in this case we double click here. Oops, I missed it. And we double clicked on the activation key that we got, and because we're connected to the internet now, we can actually try to complete the installation. And what we're hoping to see is an error first. The error is that my key that is predefined from my install disk is not I do not want to register. Microsoft wants to know my name and address, and I'd rather not tell them. So like I was saying, it should be asking me for the a request to change the key, and there it is, the new key. So at this stage I tediously look underneath the laptop and copy the key into these individual little boxes. Another thing, if gets people confused, are, for example, you have to be careful. B's and 8 sometimes look quite similar on the code. If you type it in incorrectly, you will not be able to, it will not authorize your code. Look out as well for zeros and O's. The O generally is a bigger, rounder looking circle, whilst the 0 is a more flat, squashed circle that indicates that it's a 0 and not the letter O. So I'll be typing in this key. I'll be continuing to download my drivers and install each one of them one by one to get all those things up and running. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. I'm sure you've got questions. I'm sure you might not be able to find drivers for some of the things that are inside your system, and I'll be glad to answer any questions on the channel, YouTube, or on my forum where I'll host this video as well. Good luck, and talk to you guys soon.